Adam Dunn is one of the most interesting players in MLB history who had one of the most bizarre careers. There are multiple videos made about his career, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. Instead, I want to highlight a single season from his career, his 2009 campaign. On paper, his stats were amazing. Dunn played for the Washington Nationals that season, in which he slashed .267 with a .398 on base and .529 slugging for a .928 OPS and 144 adjusted OPS. He slugged 38 home runs, drove in over 100 RBIs, and drew over 100 walks. In 2009, Dunn was in the top 20 in all of Major League Baseball in those stats mentioned: home runs, OPS, adjusted OPS, walks, and RBIs. Certainly a top 20 hitter that season, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Based on his offensive stats, it was an impressive season, right? Well, maybe not. Despite being one of the better hitters in 2009, despite slugging nearly 40 home runs, achieving an OPS north of 900 and an adjusted OPS over 140, Dunn's 2009 season was terrible. How though? How can all the amazing stats I mentioned equal a terrible season? Well, there's one stat I didn't mention yet: WAR. In 2009, Dunn's WAR was negative 0.4. Negative 0.4. Dunn was one of the best hitters in the league that season, but simultaneously one of the worst players as well. How often does this happen, where a player posts great stats but also a WAR that low? To put in perspective just how much of an anomaly this season is, let's compare it to other seasons all time. Among all qualified hitters in the history of Major League Baseball to achieve an adjusted OPS of at least 144, Dunn is the only one to post a negative WAR. It's not even close though. How large is this disparity? If we look at qualified hitters in non-shortened seasons, the second lowest WAR is 1.9. If we look strictly at players with as many or more plate appearances as Dunn in 2009, the second lowest WAR is 3.2. I would like to repeat that because it sounds vaguely important. Among all players in the history of Major League Baseball to have an adjusted OPS of at least 144 in a single season with as many or more plate appearances as Dunn in 2009, the second lowest amount of WAR is 3.2. That 3.6 difference is 8 times higher than that of Dunn's. The difference between Dunn at the lowest mark and the second lowest mark is roughly the same as the second lowest mark to the 192nd lowest mark. It's that bad. What about other players with similar WAR amounts? If we look at all qualified hitters in the history of Major League Baseball with a WAR at or lower than negative 0.4 in a single season, Dunn is naturally in first by adjusted OPS, while the second place mark is 25 points lower. Dunn is the only player in MLB to have a season with a WAR at or lower than negative 0.4 and an adjusted OPS of at least 120, let alone his mark of 144. He absolutely blows away the competition. He's not just in last place in these categories, he's in last place by a lot. Let's look at his other stats. Dunn excelled in hitting home runs and drawing walks. Among all players in MLB history to walk at least 116 times in a season, Dunn's 2009 season is just one of 3 instances to achieve fewer than 1 WAR and the only one with a negative value. The 3 players were Dunn in 2009, Eddie Lake of the 1947 Detroit Tigers, and Adam Dunn 1 year prior. Among all players in MLB history to hit at least 38 home runs in the season, Dunn is still the only player with negative WAR, and the second lowest is 0.4, achieved by Adam Dunn 3 years prior. Looking solely at 2009, there were 155 qualified hitters that season. Despite having the 12th best adjusted OPS, Dunn placed 147th in WAR. How could this happen though? How could an amazing hitter have such a terrible season, let alone a historically terrible one? There's only one answer to this: his defense. Dunn played in 159 games in 2009, all but 6 he played in the field, as he DH'd 6 times. He split time mostly between first base and left field that season, and to say the very least, he was a poor fielder. How poor? Dunn had the worst D-WAR among all players in MLB that season, in which his mark is more than double that of second place. In fact, Dunn's negative 5.2 mark is the worst all time in a single season ever. He eclipses the second place mark by a fair margin. No player has ever been worse defensively in a season than Dunn in 2009. Thanks to modern day sabermetrics, we can easily see which players are good fielders and which aren't. It's quite obvious the Nationals that season did not have modern day stats and threw him out on the field each and every day. Quick side note, not only does Dunn hold the record for lowest D-WAR in a single season, he holds the record for lowest D-WAR in a career. He is legitimately one of the worst fielders of all time. Dunn was historically bad defensively that season, so bad it brought down his value tremendously despite his wonderful hitting stats. It's one of the most unique player seasons in MLB history. With the introduction of advanced statistics and the implementation of the DH in the National League, no player who is as poor of a fielder as Dunn will play that many games on the field in the season or have a D-WAR that low ever again. It's perhaps the worst great season ever, one unlike any other.